And I am obsessed with everything that they do. Now, there has been a lot that has built up to my partnership with this company. They're actually down in the States. And I am what's called an intrapreneur within their entrepreneurial space. But I started out in a background of anatomy and physiology, which moved into having a practice based around pre and postnatal care, pelvic balancing for women. And that branched out into speaking on women's health and especially in the natural wellness spaces. And all of that came about not only because my background in anatomy and physiology, but I myself grew up very sick with a hormonally driven condition. And so those two things led me into becoming what I believe is the person that I would have needed back then. And all of that proliferated into connecting with the guys at Next Level University, Kevin and Alan, who coached me, mentored me, and then invited me to come down and MC and speak at their live event, and everything just proliferated from there for the last 4 years now. I have my own coaching programs through them. The three of us run group coaching together. We have a book club that I just got off of. We do all sorts of incredible things. That's all through the lens of personal development for the sake of your individual version of success. And that can look like health, wealth, quality of life, love, or we like to think all of the above because they all go together.
When it comes to the people that you work with, what do you see as a common obstacle that they would face when it comes to living the best version of themselves, and why?
Oh, the people that I work with, we typically tend to attract people with high self-belief. So self-belief is a more simplistic term for self-efficacy, it's called in psychology. They really believe in their ability to create an external outcome. That's what self-belief is. With enough time, energy, and effort, I can make something happen. We attract a lot of high self-belief people, but people who struggle with low self-worth. And low self-worth really holds you back from a lot of your goals. It's more the internal game to the opposing self-belief external game. And we draw in people who are looking to have a system of success created for them, taught how to be consistent in it, and learn how to do daily habits that compound over time and get them to, again, that subjective version of success. So we work with a lot of people like that. Now, within that spectrum, there's a whole variety of age groups, gender, all sorts of amazing things. And it's really wonderful to see the kind of work that we do work with these people. But it's a lot of high self-belief, very driven people with low self-worth who are looking to have just the guardrails put on of all of their beautiful ideas so they can get to their version of success.
Would you then think that, or actually, I'll ask it this way, would then self-worth be something that comes from within ourself, emphasis on the self, or does it sometimes we try to get worth from others to determine the type of self-worth that we have for ourselves?
Yeah, so it's both. It's both. We can consciously choose to gain worth externally and have that land in a healthy way. But what we typically see is most people are only getting worth externally. And that's actually in a really traumatic way. So we were talking a little bit about women behind the scenes before we started this. And like with women, for example, you're a valuable woman if, and it's all external. If you're a good wife, a good mother, a good community member, a good daughter, a good pack member at this school. That makes you a good woman. And so that's actually like a lot of trauma that's built into women, that it's all external and who they are for other people, that actually keeps their self-worth very low, even though they externally think they're getting all of this worth. But in reality, it's keeping them in a place of not keeping the promises they make to themselves, no boundaries, people pleasing, not having very much social courage to show up as their authentic self versus what others need them to be. They rarely invest in themselves. They use comparison to a detriment instead of inspiration. And those are just some things we see with low self-worth, and especially with women.
I remember the day I realized that my self-worth was low is when everything around me was falling apart.
Mhm.
Even though I was trying my hardest. Well, looking back, maybe I wasn't really trying that hard because did I really know what I didn't know at that point in my 20s, right? But then the moment I wanted to take full control of my worth and my value, that's when I became very alone. My friends didn't want to be around me as often. It seemed like the more I focused on myself, the more people began to be pushed away. And there was a point where I was feeling like lonely. It's like, oh my God, I don't have the 1,000 friends anymore. Maybe I have like 10 or 20.
Yeah.
But then I had to make a decision. And I said, and I asked myself, Terrain, do you want to be hurting with all these people around you? Or do you want to feel better with the less people around you? And then ultimately, I had to make a decision to go with the less because ultimately I was responsible for my own value, peace, and happiness. Is that something that, in your experience, is difficult for people to accept that if they're going to identify they have low self worth and they start to work on it, maybe they may not be a part of the same social circles that they were used to?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say maybe, I say absolutely. We have a name for it. We call it Lonely Land. And we prepare people for it because it typically means you're doing something right. It doesn't feel good. It's very tough, especially if you are someone who is typically a people pleaser who shows up with low authentic social courage and doesn't have any boundaries. All of the people in your life are typically benefiting from you being that way. So the second you start increasing that self-worth and showing yourself that you are of value by holding boundaries and saying yes to the things you actually want to say yes to and no to the things that you don't, laughing at things you actually find funny versus not laughing at things to the things that you don't. Those are all boosts in self-worth, and you start making choices that show a level of self-respect. And typically, the self-respect choice isn't the socially acceptable one. No, guys, I'm not going to go out for dinner with you tonight. I actually need to hit the gym. One is more self-worth and more self-respect. The other, maybe because of people pleasing. And again, if it's a healthy dynamic, then do both, obviously. But you have to know at what cost. You have to know, am I doing this because I feel like I have to, or do I genuinely want to go see these people, have a great meal with them, and then hit the gym after? The second you take empowered choice and control over those kind of choices, it's more it's difficult, but it's more aligned, and you start to actually become fulfilled. And fulfillment, again, isn't always the easier path, but it is one that once people experience it like you yourself did, you couldn't go back. You couldn't go back into low self-worth. You couldn't go back into a less fulfilled version of yourself, even if it meant having more friends. But no, that is a very typical response of any kind of self-awareness, personal development, growth of self-worth, respect, and things, is that you do tend to lose people who were benefiting from you being less than.
One woman that I used to know, she went through that, and her partner at the time, I think they were engaged. He was helping her to realize that maybe your peer group isn't serving you in the way that you would want them to because you're not able to grow with them. They seem to be holding her back. And she ultimately made a decision to get rid of her partner. Right? Because sometimes it hurts to have the mirror reflecting back on us because it's easier to ignore it, right? And she went back to that peer group. And unfortunately for her, to your point, because you see it differently now, she's miserable because she's like, oh my God, I can't unsee the pig in mud. I can't
Yes, what he
unsee,
said.
right? So when someone ultimately goes back to it and they're struggling to maybe reclaim that identity that maybe they're no longer owning up to, how can we assist them to maybe either transition where they could tolerate it, even though I hate to say that word, or say, okay, this is how we're going to help you to maybe continue to move away from such things?
Yeah. There is place for that word, though, of tolerance. It's called increasing your window of tolerance. A lot of us don't have the capacity yet for these big changes. We have to build our capacity and our tolerance to what happens with these changes. And so it's not unusual, unfortunately, for people to rather throw away the mirror and stay in their comfort zone rather than do what it takes to expand their comfort zone into a growth zone and really face that mirror. But once you see what's in the mirror, it is hard to throw it away. And it'll always kind of poke at you a little bit. And that's for a reason. And that signal gets hopefully, unfortunately, but hopefully louder and louder and louder so that you do make a change. hopefully your comfort zone becomes so uncomfortable that you do want to make a change. And unfortunately, that takes a lot of discomfort in some people to make a healthy change. But if that's what gets you there, amazing. But I would love to see people be more proactive about it than reactive. And I think that's where we can help a lot of people by talking about it more and talking about the things to watch out for and talk about how the discomfort typically means it's working. The less social circle typically means it's working. You choosing to make the harder choices means it's working. And no, it's not comfortable. But people struggle. This is where self belief kind of overlaps with self worth. Self belief, there's a physical component to it and how to build self belief, but there's also a mentality component that's really, really important. And I think you touched on it. You have to believe it's possible. So, is it possible out in the world for this thing to be done? Was it possible for her to ditch her friend group and maybe stay with the man who was the mirror for her? I mean, people do that all the time. So, yes, it's possible. That's layer one. Is it possible for me? Those are two different answers a lot of the times because people believe that other people have things that they don't to be able to make that choice and believe that for themselves. So, do I believe it's possible? Do I believe it's possible for me? And is it going to be worth it? If you don't believe it's going to be worth it, you are not going to do the hard things and the uncomfortable things that it takes to get to that version of success. And so I always take people through those layers in anything they're trying to do, whether it be a small daily habit or a whole lifestyle shift like that. It's really important to make sure that those layers line up so that they can actually take action that they believe is going to be worth doing.
It was worth it for Amy and Terrain to do it, but I just don't see the worth for myself. Something along those lines?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes we can't connect to the worth yet because we don't believe it's possible. So it was possible for Bob, but because Bob's XYZ and has this level of this and whatever, it's not possible for me. Now, there might be certain nuances where there are different lifestyle circumstances and things, but it doesn't mean that your own version of that isn't possible. But you have to find a way that that is within your belief system. So if you give someone the task of, okay, they've never consistently worked out in their life, but they want to get fit and they want to work out consistently and honor their body that way with movement, and you say, okay, amazing, let's start you at the gym for 2 hours a day every day. Do you believe that's possible? Well, I guess people go and do that. There's bodybuilders out there who do that twice a day. Like, of course it's possible. Do you believe it's possible for you? Absolutely not. If you asked me, trained to do that right now, I'd tell you to go take a hike. No, I'm not going and spending 2 hours at the gym today. One, I live in a teeny tiny town on a dirt road that doesn't even have a gym. I'd have to go to the next town over. I homeschool my children. I have young children at home. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that doesn't fit with my lifestyle. Okay, amazing. So you have like 0% belief that that is possible for you right now. Even though, yes, if I tried, it absolutely would be. I have a vehicle. I know where, right? But I don't believe it's possible for me right now. It would mess up with my quality of life, which I value deeply. So let's break it down into, okay, you still have this goal though. You still want to move your body every day and get more physically healthy. So let's break it down into where you do believe it's possible. And then you can always build from there, but you want to create a solid foundation. So break it down, break it down, break it down. Okay, I believe that I can work out from home for a half hour every day and start crushing that system. And again, maybe it's not a specific, I'm not going to lift weights every day. It's I'm going to move my body in an aligned way every day for 30 minutes. That could be a walk with the kids, a hike, us out in nature, a swim. We love to go swimming, but I also have my walking pad at home, weights at home. I love doing at home yoga videos, those kinds of things. As long as I'm doing one a half hour every day based on however the day looks, I get to pick from one of those things. I believe that's possible. And when I start crushing that every day, I'm building self belief. But I also have a layer of it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it for whatever discomfort I do have in that first little bit of getting used to that half hour because I am called to become more physically healthy. And so when you line it all up in their certain level of layer of belief and make it specific to them and show them why it's going to be worth it and help them believe that it's going to be worth it. And yes, it's been modeled out in the world. There are plenty of women who are pushing 40, who homeschool their children, who love working out from home and are fit. And I can use that as inspiration. It is possible. And so when you can help someone on an individual level find that for themselves, you can start building self belief mentally and physically.
You touched on women. Is that difficult for women to balance that, break it down, and
Mhm.
say that, okay, this is what worked for Terrain and Amy, but I need to do it this way because I have so many different hats that I got to take off, take on, and balance.
Yes, very much so. There's, especially in women, there's a layer of, oh, I could never spend that much time on myself, my children, my family, my household, my this. So this is where we have to remind them that the hats that they wear are on their head. And that head, that person who is wearing all of those hats needs to be taken care of. And that is very hard for a lot of women to hear because they hear self care as selfish. They hear time for themselves as selfish. So, first, you have to break that belief. That's a belief that goes against the goal. So, layers of belief there are so, so important. And then another kind of layering thing that we take people through is core aspirations, core values, core beliefs. Your core aspiration is, let's keep the fitness train going. We can all kind of resonate with that in some way, shape, or form. You have this goal, this core aspiration that you want to physically move your body every day. Your core values and your core beliefs need to line up with that for that to be successful over time. So, right there, there's a core belief in conflict with the core aspiration that they believe that they are either not worth it, that takes away from something. Again, there's so many different nuances there for women, but it's addressing those and then helping them break free of those and bringing in, sometimes we have to bring in things like facts over feelings. What is actually true? What is really important? And the key word that you said there that women use a lot is balance. Oh, if I could just balance my home and work life, if I could just balance motherhood and marriage, if I could balance, 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 balance. The reason you can't get there is because balance is BS. Balance insinuates that you can be all things equally all at once. And you can't. And you can try really, really hard, but you can't. So we bring in words like harmony and flow. You can flow in and out of the hats you wear. You can harmonize within them. I love the analogy of the spinning plates. So let's take hats off for a second and let's pretend that they're all plates. And you're that person at the center who's holding all the sticks and spinning the plates. Seen those guys? They're like street performers, and sometimes you see them at the circus, and they're also like on a unicycle. It's wild. That's women, especially our brains. Our brains are so spectral and we have tabs open all the time, and those tabs are spinning all the time. It's why we're very mentally exhausted easily. Don't even get me started on how the hormone cycles play into that. We are very complex beings. And so when you're trying to think, oh my gosh, I'm trying to balance all these plates and have them all have equal momentum at all times, you're going to crash and burn. It's actually not possible for you to do that. You can only give so many momentum at all times. And so I help women paint this picture of, okay, what plate are you giving momentum to right now? So this morning I gave my children momentum. I spent time with them. We made smoothies. We did our thing. That has momentum now. I'm going to step away and now I'm in my professional arena. I'm in my passion, my purpose, my, again, motherhood kind of bleeds into everything, let's be honest, but stay with me here. I'm podcasting. I just came from book club. I had a coaching client earlier today. I'm in my professional arena. I can step away from motherhood. Again, that one never really turns off, but I can step away from motherhood, trusting that I gave that momentum this morning. And now moving into this. And later I get to go back into family and into my marriage and probably get some laundry done because that plate was not spinning all week. It wasn't important enough to spin this week. It's now a job for the weekend. So all of these plates cannot have all of your attention all at once. But the important thing that is true across the board is if you fall, all of those plates fall with you. And then you have to pick it back up and build up momentum. So you have to take care of yourself. You're the one spinning all the plates. And you also have to give yourself permission to label which plates are glass plates, the ones that are so important to you that you want them to have momentum all the time. And which ones are plastic plates? Which ones can fall? If you don't look at them for a while, you can pick them back up when you have the capacity and capability to do so. That's a really important distinction as well. But harmony and flow versus balance.
I find women do struggle a lot with that. And I like the example you gave with the plates because you'll have some women say that, well, I want to be balanced. I'm 25% wife today, 25% mother, 25% good citizen, and 25% work. And it's like, well, you still have to be 100% you, right? So who are you, right? Like I understand you have these maybe different identities, but to your point, Amy, are they in harmony today? And you'll see women say that, no, I'm giving 12 hours to my job, 14 hours, and I'm giving 30 minutes to my children. I'm giving 15 minutes to my husband. I'm like, okay, from the outside looking in, you're telling the world which one's more important because you're sacrificing yourself, your family, your partner for this other thing. And I think as I work with women as they get older, I mentioned the women I work with are in their 50s and 60s, they have given up so much of themselves for their work. You mentioned health earlier, you mentioned family. Do you see women sacrificing so much for a plate that they should only spin maybe a few times a week while they're neglecting all these other areas, which in the long term are probably more beneficial to them?
Yeah, all the time. And sometimes they just need someone to come in and validate that it's okay to let that plate go for a little while. They need to hear it from an external source because they don't have, again, that self-worth to be able to say it to themselves. They need a lot of permission. And I think there's a lovely balance as a coach of women that you can validate and give permission to their areas of struggle and frustration, but you can also help guide them into systems and habits and things that are going to serve them with a little bit of that directive, tough love, for lack of a better term.
Could guilt and shame play a role in that as well?
Always.
She said always, everybody.
There is always a layer of guilt and shame somewhere, but there's a huge difference between guilt and shame. And unfortunately, a lot of it's shame based. So guilt is I did a bad thing. Shame is I am the bad thing. I am a bad person. And it's mostly shame. You see a lot of shame in men as well, though. And that's a lot of underlying, that's like an underlying driver of a lot of things you see them struggle with in their life. It's rooted in I am a bad person. It's not I did a bad thing and I can separate from myself from this thing. It's I am a bad person. So if I don't spin all the plates and treat them all as urgent and important, I am a bad person. I don't feel guilt around it. I feel shame because I am tying myself to it. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done around that of just permission and love and shifting of beliefs and just allowing them to see that their whole world is not going to crash and burn when they let something go for a little while. If anything, it's going to start thriving and feeling more vibrant.
Yeah, shame and guilt. It's almost in everything that we do. I was speaking to a male friend and he's in a relationship and I just asked him, I was like, you want to be able to invest in each other. He's like, Trent, what do you mean? I was like, well, you're sharing that your partner is going through some difficulty. She feels overwhelmed. And I asked him, what do you think you could do to maybe alleviate some of that? He was like, I never thought of that. I'm like, safety and security, right? Like if you wanted to come from a place of care, and I just shared with him, like you'll be surprised that there's things that I believe, and I'll get your input, Amy. There's things that I believe that men can handle more efficiently than women, and there's things that women can handle more efficiently than men. But the beautiful thing is when you have two people come together, you don't have to worry about that because when you're feeling overwhelmed or when you're drained, the person that you decide to spend your rest of your life with, that you created a beautiful family, will say that, let me take some of that load off you. Let me help you spin that plate, right?
Yes.
Because you guys can spin it together and it's less energy. When
Yes.
it comes to that connection between family and partners, how can we help each other to make sure that we're in harmony, as you mentioned?
Hmm. Yeah, like you said, you can take the load of one of those plates, even if it's just the thought. Like women's mental load is not talked about enough. There's a documentary and a book called Fair Play, and I highly recommend it to everybody. It talks about the difference between women's mental load and men's mental load within the household, within a family unit, within it's wonderful. And I do. I think there can be such a beautiful harmony between partners, especially when you deeply understand your partner. But to deeply understand your partner, you actually need your partner to have a lot of self-awareness. So again, it comes back to self. The more you understand yourself, self-awareness is a superpower. The more you understand yourself, the way you, why you think, say, do, feel, believe, the way you act with other people, how you show up with others and in the world, is a roadmap for your partner, because you can say, this is how I know I feel loved. How many couples are missing each other because his love language is acts of service? And because a lot of men can feel uncomfortable around big emotions, so they go and do something like take out the trash because they know, they think that that's the thing she needs in this moment. Now, while that is a very wonderful act, and yes, that's taking something potentially off her plate within the household, she needs you emotionally. She needs you to see her and her emotions. She needs you to say, yep, that makes sense. That's heavy and that sucks. Do you want me to sit here with you in it? Do you want me to talk it out with you? How can I support you in this way? And again, vice versa. Women are constantly looking for this emotional consent. Again, I'm generalizing. There's differences and nuances, but just for this discussion's sake, let's generalize a little bit. I'm giving you all these emotional cues to show you that I love you, when in reality, you're looking for acts of service. You're There's so many little nuances there. Core wounds come into play. If you know your core wound and what that means, oh my gosh. And if you know your attachment style, to know your attachment style and be able to bring that level of communication into your relationship will change your life. If you're in a marriage or in a relationship right now and you start to do that work right now, it'll change the dynamic of your relationship for the better. Because if you know, there's so many nuances, but there's two general buckets. If you're an avoidant or an anxious, that instantly tells you so much you need to know about you and your partner, especially during conflict. If you guys are in conflict and having a debate, the avoidant wants to run. They want to hide, they want to go process silently and then come back. Hopefully, if you're a healthy avoidant, you will come back. If you're not and you don't come back and you hope it just goes away, that's detrimental to your partner regardless. You need to heal that and do some work around that. The anxious wants to talk it out. They want to glom on harder. No, we need to talk this out and get to the root of it and have a resolution and things. And for those two to come together, the overwhelm of the anxious to want to bring in all the feelings and have the big discussion is really detrimental for the avoidant, because they need to go process. And vice versa, when this person leaves and goes and processes, the anxious feels completely abandoned and that you don't love them. I love you more than you love me. I'm willing to put in these hard discussions. You're not. You're just missing each other. And there are healed versions, there are secure attachments to those avoidant and anxious attachment styles, just like there's an empowered and healed version of each core wound. Those things are always going to be there. Those are pieces of you from childhood and from all sorts of things. But what happens, again, bringing it back to self awareness being a superpower, is if you know your core wound is defective and you're an avoidant, or maybe you're a dismissive avoidant if you want to get extremely specific, you know how you see the world and how you see others and how others interact with you, you interact with them. You know that about yourself. So instead of it constantly happening unconsciously and these things running you like a petulant child driving a bus that has no control over it, you all of a sudden get to have empowered control over those things. You get to have intention in how you navigate the world, not through those wounds, but through the choice that you know you need to make because of them. You get to drive them intentionally, and it makes all the difference in your life. It really does.
I'm glad you mentioned the different attachment styles, and I'm glad that you mentioned that it's a choice. I shouldn't say it's a choice. Well, it is. Well, I'll say that I'm glad that you mentioned that people can work towards a healthy version of that, because sometimes it could be that, well, that's a lot of work. I'm like, well, it's you.
It
No
is.
one's going to be able to pour into you more lovingly than you. And you mentioned the love languages. Years ago, I was in a relationship where my love language and my partner's love language were triggers for each other, right? But the beautiful thing is, and thank God for my training, I was able to identify that. Right? So we were trying to have a conversation, and I shared this with her, and we spoke about it, and it was good because it put both of us in a situation where we had to work towards healing that so we can move forward with each other. And as I look back, and even though that relationship didn't last for other reasons, I always thought to myself, how many people would be able to be vulnerable enough to have that type of conversation, to open up about their triggers, their core wounds, the things that maybe were done to them or the things that they absorb that cause that. Do you work with people to help them to overcome that once they are able to identify the origins and help them along the journey?
Yeah. Yeah, I think as a good leader and a good coach, you need to have those skills. Because the second you start talking to someone with low self-belief, the same way you talk to someone who has high self-belief, you're doing more damage than good. That little distinction right there, you're doing more harm than good. And so coaching's funny that way because people come to you for what they think they need. So I have people coming to me for, okay, I want to build out this program and I want to build out this course and I want to sell courses and this is their vision. And it's amazing. It's a beautiful vision. So good for the world. Love that. Those are my favorite people. It's a win-win-win. You win, I win, the world wins by us working together to create this beautiful thing. But that's what they think they want or they want. They come to that with what you want. You as a coach is to discern what they need and how those needs are either being met, not met, and why that's getting in the way of the thing that they want. Because it's all together. When we do group coaching, I said this the other night. So group coaching is all three of us. You get Kevin, Allen, and myself. So two men, a woman, very again, just healthy masculine, a woman who comes in who understands hormone cycles and just we make this beautiful team. So all three of us are so different, but we believe in the same things and we have values that align and we believe in certain skills and things. So it's wonderful to see all three of us come together. But they were talking about how, so Kevin, he's Mr. Podcast. He's our podcast producer, all sorts of incredible things. He's a podcast coach. He works with like piles and piles of podcasters. And so he's like, I'm going to help you grow your podcast, grow, scale, monetize, all of these things. Here's your listener, all the incredible things you need to know as a podcaster. And Alan's our CEO, computer engineer, business major, systems thinker. The dude thinks in numbers constantly. It's amazing. And then I come in and I'm like, and I'm just going to help you honor the human because you're going on that entire journey. Every business venture you go on, every podcast interview you go into, everything that you are going to do, you are going along the way. So when we do group coaching, we start with the first 4 weeks are always grow yourself. The first 4 weeks of the 12 weeks is grow yourself. You're going to learn about your self belief, your self worth, your archetype, and where that sits, like all sorts of things, because that just lays down a foundation that you are now going to build your success upon and that you can keep growing along the way.
So take us through those steps. You mentioned that's the first 4 weeks. What about the remaining time? Speak to us about that.
So the remaining time, we are focused on what's called our podcast accelerator right now. So we handpick 10 podcasters per quarter to work with. So even though we're working with podcasters, we still want to make sure we're honoring them as the human. So the first 4 weeks are very heavy, grow yourself, but it's also get to know your goals, get to know your habits so that you can start tracking and start building momentum. And those are the first 4 weeks. The next 4 weeks are all podcasting. It's very heavy, Kevin. We're going to go into the two different kinds of funnels, listener ladders, titles, YouTube. What is the picture you see when you first go onto YouTube? Oh my gosh. The screen caption of the
Thumbnail?
video, the thumbnail. Thank
There
you.
you
That's what
go.
I'm looking for. Thank you. Thumbnails, all sorts of things for your podcast, but also your story. What's your through line for your listeners? How are you serving your listeners? We go into all of that. And then the next 4 weeks are very heavy, Alan. Business. We're talking business funnels, flywheels, the different ladders that he does. It's incredible, but it's all about monetizing and how you can build a brand, marketing, sales star that we have. There's so much that goes into it, but that's the full thing.
That's amazing because you're helping people in so many different ways, right? Like you mentioned earlier, you have the self-worth and what you can do for yourself and identify the success for you, right? And then you mentioned these weeks in this program. Why do you think people confuse with success that they want with maybe success from society or maybe culture as well?
Oh. Oh, that happens all the time. Is this even mine? I have to get people to ask themselves that all the time. Is this belief, this dream, this goal, is it even mine? Or was I brought up to think that it's only success if I am XYZ? I also work with women who would love the idea of just bringing in $300 to $500 a month, doing something that they love doing while still honoring the fact that they are at home with their children. And they want to make sure that that is the first priority, first and foremost. But they can build something that fulfills them and brings them that peace that they're looking to have filled, and one, permission that it's okay to do that, that it's their version of success right now and it's absolutely worth doing. Well, you hear them, well, $500 isn't going to make that much of a difference. Is it really success? Should I be shooting for more? People always say I should do more, more, more. It's like, no, not with the season of life you're in. You want to do more with your family as well. You want to do more as a mother. Like, yeah, let's bring those things in and create your fulfilled quality of life version of this success for this season. And then as your children need you less, you can pour into this more. And how exciting that you've already built a very solid foundation for that thing along the way. That's what I'm doing. It's exactly what I'm doing. As my children need me less, I get to pour into my career more. But I'm building a foundation right now that is going to create momentum for years to come in the things that I want to do. And I think that's awesome and absolutely a version of success. And so, yeah, I think people need that.
I'm still surprised how many people, as we get older, still attribute money to their internal success.
Oh, yes, very much so. And how separate it all is. I'm only successful if I'm professionally successful. There's a holistic success that needs to be embraced there. To me, you're successful if you're healthy, you're wealthy, and you have quality of life and love. So many people, how much do you see that are they're financially very well, but they have, 6 divorces and none of their kids talk to them and they're not physically healthy. And then you have the opposite. You have these amazing heart-driven humans who are raising beautiful children and have wonderful relationships and communities and things, but they can't make money for the life of them.
I worked with a lawyer that was like that. He was an immigration lawyer, and he earned quite a bit of money. And when I went to work with him as a, I think, paralegal at that time, before I started doing this, got the coaching and other things, he would share that terrain. I'm missing birthdays, I'm missing anniversaries. He saw his wife because she worked there part time, and he said that his kids were being distant. And he shared that when he retires or if he were to get sick, he doesn't expect his two children to be there for him to support him. And just like me, it broke my heart. And I'm looking at him. I was 21 at the time. I'm like, wow, life is showing me my potential future if I stay this course. But he would text me 5:30 in the morning. Okay, Trim, we got to be at court at 6 a.m. I'm like, 6 a.m. I'm like, I got to get ready, have breakfast, and we'd be there long days. And I share that because eventually I said, this isn't for me because I wanted the family. I wanted the healthy relationship. And I was looking at him, and it was the job that I wanted, that I went to school for, but it wasn't the life that I wanted. And I think sometimes people confuse the two, between the life that maybe you want and the job that you want. Would you agree with that?
I do, and we are not brought up to understand that they are one. They are one, so choose wisely. We always tell a story about a client early on in the Next Level University days who had this great idea. He wanted to have a brick and mortar business. And he wanted to, again, I don't need to get into all the details, but a brick and mortar business where he was tied down and he was going to create this whole thing, be the CEO. Like this was going to take a lot of his time and he was going to be committed to this space. And it wasn't exactly fulfilling him and bringing him all of the things he wanted to bring. So when you dive into his core values, well, one of them is freedom of movement. He didn't like being tied down to this brick and mortar space. He wanted to travel. He wanted to be able to work from anywhere in the world. Those two things don't make sense together. But how many people do that? Vice versa. How many people think that entrepreneurial journeys now are the only way to be successful? To be a successful entrepreneur, it takes a lot. People always think, oh, but then I have time freedom. No, you don't. If you're an entrepreneur, your life is your business and your business is your life if you want it to be successful. There's a reason Alan, our CEO, doesn't have kids yet. It's intentional. He's doing everything he can to build this incredible business so that he has whatever he can do for his children later. It's very intentional. We had another guy who wanted to, I forget the person he was comparing himself to successfully. He's like, I want to be like so and so. And this person, you can tell, works 22 hours a day to build the business that they had built. And the question that Kevin asked them, hey man, when you have kids, do you want to pick them up from the bus after school? He was like, oh yeah, I want to be the best dad. I want to be the most involved, best dad that I absolutely can be. Those two things don't mix. You are going to be miserable. If we gave people permission to ask themselves those questions, to create a vision that is holistic, which is why I fell in love with this company and these two guys and what they were doing initially, is because they called it holistic self-improvement. Now, we don't talk about that as much in those words nowadays because no one knows what the heck that means. So it's not very good marketing. But it's a through line of everything we do. It's holistic. Everything affects everything else, whether you want it to or not. I fell in love with the word holistic before I met them on my healing journey, becoming pain free and well from a condition I was told would run and ruin my entire life. But I fell in love with holistic because as I embraced that everything affects everything else, not only in my internal environment, it wasn't just about one piece of my body, it was about all of it because it works together. And then that interacts with my external environment, and both create health or not. And how my mental, physical, and emotional all came together holistically. It's not just one or the other. I was able to get healthy. Now, it took time. It took a bunch of unsexy fundamentals that no one wants to hear about. Everyone just wants to be like, well, what was the one thing? What was the one thing that got you healthy, Amy? No, it was a decade of unsexy fundamentals. And it's absolutely worth it. But people don't want to hear that, right? Especially nowadays. It's, oh, you can get rich in a weekend. Oh, take my 10-day course and you'll be a millionaire. Oh my gosh, it's all such BS. I can't even. But one, always give yourself the grace and perspective of time. We have a success formula, and one of them is time perspective. If your time perspective is off, you're not going to succeed. But back to the through line, there are so many different versions of success, and you need to know what yours is so that it does feel fulfilling, it feels momentous, it feels purposeful, and then you can make a profit from it and have the life that you want as well.
Yeah, there isn't a 90-day build a booty to someone's health journey.
No.
Very
Mm.
unsexy. A lot of it is a lot of it's a lot of crying. It's a lot of
Yes.
pain.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's be honest, right? It's a lot of you ever cry like the snot? It's like it's very unsexy
Yep. Do it in the
crying.
shower if you can, so you can just have it all rinse away at the same time. A little sad moment life hack for you there. But honestly, that means you're doing something right. Because if you are avoiding all the things that cause you pain, you are messing up. They're going to come back. And they will bite you in the ass in some way, shape, or form, typically in your relationships or things later on.
There's only so much unhealed trauma, ignored emotion that you can stuff in your closet. There's
That's right.
only so much. You mentioned core values earlier. Can you share to our audience a little bit about that, what they are and how they impact us?
Oh, your core values are amazing. So they're already there. They're already there. It's something that you get to uncover. Some things we need to grow and cultivate, other things we need to uncover and discover, like our core values, core wounds, attachment styles, those kinds of things all happen early on. So, core values are something that you uncover. And what's really neat is once you understand what they are, you can start living your life through the filter of that core value. Does this align with my core values or not? Yes, no. And you'll start to see as you reflect on your life, this thing that I thought would be amazing and feel really good to me and feel really aligned actually didn't feel that great. And I didn't like it as much as I should. And then vice versa. Oh, this is why this feels so good to me. So I'll give you an example. My top three core values are freedom, love, and growth. If I have a fourth, it's integrity. But 3 to 5 is typically your best if you can. And when I started realizing and looking around at my life, oh, I create my own schedule. I work from home. I've always struggled to be an employable person as far as like hours and being poured into by people I strongly disagree with and all sorts of things. We homeschool. I have chickens, like it's everywhere. These are why all these things make sense to me. My first core value is freedom, body freedom. That comes from me being sick and having a bunch of old men doctors telling me that there was nothing I could do about my body. This is just you being a woman, deal with it. Body freedom is very important to me for those reasons. There's so much that goes into the word freedom for me. And I want you all, if you don't know your core values, to go online. Find a core value list. Brene Brown has a great one. Google Brene Brown core value list and just start highlighting. Which ones do you love? Now, for the women especially, we love to love all things. It's like, oh, what's your favorite color? Well, I love all the colors. What one? But like specifically, I love green outside. I love black for clothing. What are we talking about? So I see you in that. Amazing. Highlight all the ones that land for you. You're going to come out with like 30. That's okay. Start grouping them together under headings and words that make sense to you. Mine were freedom, love, and growth. Those words I chose to encompass all of the ones that made sense to me on that list. Highlight the ones that you love and that feel good for you, cross off the ones that don't, and start grouping them together into the headings that make sense for you. 3 to 5. One is too little. 5 typically can be too many for people. 3 is usually a great sweet spot in so many things for so many reasons. But that is a great one because then you start to understand yourself. You start to understand why choices feel good and why they don't. You start to understand. So even me, I'm sure if you haven't put it together yet, the person I was talking about for the fitness who needed the half hour of moving my body in an aligned way that felt good to me that day, that was me. Because if you told me I had to work out for an hour every day weightlifting, I'd have told you to take a hike. It doesn't work for me. I need variety. I need freedom of choice. I need the freedom to move within my hormonal cycle. It's not good for me to actually lift heavy on certain parts of my cycle. It actually does more harm than good. I need the freedom to be able to do that and to honor that within myself. And so knowing this about yourself helps you create those kinds of systems, patterns, habits, lifestyles that make sense to you.
That's probably one of the best ways I've heard it described. So thank you for sharing the
Oh,
core values. That was
welcome.
nice. One more question for you, Amy, before I let you go. I want to give you three wishes. And
Ooh.
these are three things you can wish people knew about this question. And I think this was a beautiful theme to what we talked about when we tied everything in. So, what are three things you wish people knew about self awareness and why?
Oh, I wish that people knew that it's a superpower. I said that earlier. It is, it's a superpower. I wish that people knew that the more you know yourself, the more you are going to have the quality of life that you desire. And the more self aware you are, the more authentic, loving, deep relationships you're going to have